Welcome back to another episode of the Cosmic Business Breakthrough. I am really excited to welcome today's guest, Gisell Paula, to talk all about the customer experience. And of course, we are going to link this all into astrology. But I'm really excited because, well, first of all, I haven't talked a lot about the customer experience on this podcast yet. And yet, it is such an important part of what we're doing in terms of our businesses, in terms of scaling our businesses, in terms of our marketing practices, and what happens once you sign people up to your program or get people committed to your service. How are they going to interact with you, and how are you going to deliver on those promises that you made in your marketing pitch? So, welcome, Gisell. Thank you so much for being here. Can you tell us a bit about you, a bit about your story, how you came to be doing the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me, Sophia. Super excited to be here and have this conversation and spread the gospel of good experiences. My story is a little bit of a complex one. So I began my working career with food, and my first job at 16 was working at a bakery. And through that, I got to really understand the dynamics of just like real firsthand experience. And that was kind of like separate to the context of food. And then I went on to spend the next near decade of my life working in hospitality and working at restaurants. And as my career grew and I was kind of like seeking technical aptitude, as a reformed pastry chef is how I like to consider myself. As I was seeking more technical aptitude, what I ended up doing was working at more and more places that were in the context of how it is that we think about it, kind of like fine dining, more luxury. But at the core of what makes something a luxury experience, most of the time what we're talking about is experience. And it really comes down to the human interactions and how it is that you deliver that service. So that brought me on. First of all, it gave me tons of permission to be as empathetic and as service oriented as I possibly could be while I was making delicious desserts, which is also a really great way to make someone's day in general, if you bring them baked goods. But even more so than that, I was working in these places that really wanted to provide these awesome, what I ultimately call kick-ass experiences, which is just like some would call it radical hospitality, some would call it like fine dining, but really what it is just finding ways, and they encouraged for the workers to find ways to go above and beyond. And through that, not only did I, kind of get to hone my skill and get to do it in a way where I had the flexibility to really perfect it, which really leaned into my Virgo-ness. But also, I grew this love and this magic for that feeling that you get when you're able to make someone's day. And so 10 years later, I ended up leaving the hospitality world. But I took those principles, a lot of those principles that I learned in hospitality with me. And so, what does that look like? That looked like going on to run like nationwide campaigns and having the same dynamic of experience and communication and going above and beyond for my clients when I did marketing at agency. And then when I led like IT programs, I saw how providing great experience, even as an employee, just afforded me more joy in my work. It afforded me more freedom because I was able to gain trust. And it kind of did, in a weird way, help contribute to this culture that I love being in. And I was able to do that and kind of, I guess, set my tone in my workplaces by having this customer centric focus. And so now I try and help businesses with their operational solutions, a lot of which comes down to customer experience. Like you said, I love that phrasing. And that's usually how I explain it myself when I talk about improving your operations, which people don't often think of customer experience within that realm. But improving your operations really looks like, how do you deliver on that promise? And so we make promises through our marketing and through our communications of what it is that folks can expect. And I think especially as I'm like an advocate and the biggest fan of small businesses. I think, especially for small businesses, the opportunities to really distinguish yourself in the market, and especially if you're in a saturated space, is really through, providing excellent customer experiences.
Yeah, I love that. That really does set you apart. And I was actually saying to a client earlier this week who launched a new online course. I went into her portal, her online course portal, and I just felt so calm. I was like, this is a really nice experience. And how great it is that she'd spent so much, obviously, time and effort making that feel good to her customers, because we spend, as a marketer, as a former copywriter, or still a copywriter, you spend so much time on getting people to sign up. But then often once they get in there, it's a little bit like, I've put, you've got the content and everything's there ready to go. And obviously I'm talking about, online course providers or coaches, but everything's there, but it's kind of not really thought through. You haven't really thought about what your customers actually want from you and how they want to be led through that experience. So I'd love you to kind of expand a little bit more on why customer experience is so important and how we can kind of conceptualize that in our own businesses, how that might look from a small business perspective or an online business perspective.
Yeah, I to me, that example that you gave is the perfect example, because especially when we talk about digital products and in the digital space, it's so easy to kind of, you know, not pay so much attention to that. And because it's most of the time, there's a level of distance between us and our customer, right? We're not seeing them consume the product. So it becomes a
Yeah.
little abstract. So it really does require a level of empathy. But like, that experience is so visceral and it's so true. This great marketing will bring everybody once. And so acquisition is just an expensive effort for small businesses, and even for enterprises, a lot of money goes into acquisition. So when we're talking about acquisition, um, you know, want to bring it to layman's terms, just in case that's not a word that is often used by particularly like small business owners. So we're talking about bringing new people into your space, getting new people to convert, getting new people to buy. So when we talk about acquisition, we're talking about getting that customer to have that interaction with you and then feel so compelled by what it is that you're doing, that they're willing to spend their hard-earned money or their hard-earned resources, even if it's like a free resource. We're talking about time. We're talking about effort. We're talking about energy that's going into something that you produce. So we're making a big ask of people, and you want to make sure that it is a good experience, not just so you can upsell them, but also customer experience has the power and the potential to turn one customer into 10. If someone has a bad experience, that will spread like wildfire. But the
Yes.
same, not quite as, it won't spread quite as fast as bad experiences, but good
Yeah.
experiences also spread too. And the
Mm.
thing is that we talk about social proof and having testimonials on website, and
Mm.
no testimonial, no video could possibly be better than someone that's in your network, someone who you trust in your life, saying, hey, this is a product that I trusted, I had such a great experience. And more so than that, if you're able to invest in your customer experience, they keep using your product. So they're able to actually achieve the transformation that you're promising them. And that's especially important when we talk about digital
Yeah.
products, where we see that completion rates for courses
Yes.
is so low. And a lot of people might download your freebie, but if they're not doing the action that gets them that small win that you promised with that freebie,
Mm.
will they actually convert and buy something? And
Mm.
so it's important to think about experience at every juncture. And we probably won't get into it too much, but customer journey maps are like the thing.
Yeah.
They're the number
I
one
love that.
vehicle that you have to be able to visualize that, especially because you are. like you don't get to see
Mm.
them consume it. So you have to map out literally, like if you're going into a store and say, I walk into a store and I'm going to go get this candy bar. And then the next step is I walk here and I do this. So, yeah.
Right. So that's super powerful. And I guess it's really good to know that even from a marketing perspective, because if you're going to be sending people through an email funnel, for instance, you want to know, you want to be able to guide them through that customer experience. Like that's how I think of kind of email marketing in a way, is like you are walking people through their journey, or you're coaching them to your solution, or you're coaching them towards an outcome. So what I guess, what do people need to know about that customer journey map? I know we were going to go somewhere else, but I love this. What do people need to know about that in terms of keeping people on the right path? Where are they likely to kind of let things slide, or what's the usual
Yeah.
what's the usual process, I guess?
Okay. So I'm going to pick on you just a little tiny bit, a little tiny
Okay,
bit.
good.
So I think one of the biggest mistakes that we do is we rely on one channel to be able to
Mm,
guide people through that journey. Look at,
mm,
if you look at your open rates, your email open rates, industry standard is
mm,
30%, which means that 30% of the people are getting your communications at any time. Chances are that it's not the same 30%. So even within that 30%, the number of folks in your community that you're actually
mhm.
able to guide, if you just rely on one channel for your communications and for taking them through that journey, you're
Yes.
that's that percentage is going to be a lot lower. So I really deploy this design thinking approach. So a lot of that is so mostly when we talk about design thinking, it's most commonly used when we talk about products like apps or websites or stuff like that. But or sometimes if you're environmental design, a lot of kind of like thinking about where do people walk and creating walkways, all of that. But that is just as useful in our instance where we have digital businesses,
Yeah.
because you have to think about, okay, if someone misses this communication, how do I make sure I get them back on the path somewhere else? So a lot
Mm,
of the principle that I like to use, and this is actually something that I actually haven't talked about publicly, but it's so important, it's making, and this is kind of like a UX principle, but making information available when it's needed. So
mm,
finding the balance between like putting so much information, and that's the art where you're like, what do you need to know, what have you missed up until this point, how do I get you caught up without making it overwhelming, because then you run into your other user experience challenges. But I would say do that process of building a customer journey map and think about the alternative routes that folks might take and how can you course correct. So maybe if you have a digital course and you're sending communications via email, like for example, I'll give a very tangible example. So I have, and this isn't a plug, this is like really a conversation. I have
all good.
a mini course all about customer experience.
Mm,
And within the mini course, there are points in the email where I literally say, hey, this is a place where you might be stuck. Just like, this is a hard thing that I just introduced, a hard ask that I'm making of you to kind of like complete this exercise. In the email, I have, you can book a 15-minute call so that I can get you unstuck. And so that's one way where I kind of like quote unquote go above and beyond. But also it's about having it in the course itself. Like, hey, this is hard. I acknowledge that. I'm asking you to stretch yourself, but I am here for you. If you need it, you can also book this call. So again, it's making that information, assuming that at any point, most people are going to miss that singular
mm,
communication. So just making sure that you account for that and that you course correct where possible. If you can automate it, then that's great. But if you
yeah.
can't, just making sure to communicate that. So I would say that's like the number one thing that I think a lot of folks miss, the number one opportunity that I think a lot of folks miss.
Yeah. And on that, I suppose that idea of having a really strong way to onboard people as well as they come into into your, either whether it's a freebie or whether it's a paid product, you're making sure that people understand that they can reach out to you if they have a problem. Because I think a lot of times, especially in this kind of digital age, we buy something and then we kind of just, and if it doesn't make sense to us, we kind of just shelve it and we don't go back to
Mm-hmm.
it. And then yes, that is a totally lost opportunity, not just for us as consumers, but also for the person who sold it to us. Because we're not going, as you
Absolutely.
say, we're not going to go keep investing with that person if we didn't understand the first thing that they gave us. So we have to, as digital product creators or service providers, give them a really clear way to connect with us, or for you, like you given people, a quick way to solve their problem, or to tell them that it's okay if you don't get it. Like, this is a really important thing that we often miss, is that just because we think it's easy, I know I do this with astrology all the time, like, just because I think it's easy doesn't mean it makes sense for someone else. So you've got to kind of have this way of making it obvious, in order to provide great customer service, that people can contact you and ask you questions, and you will walk them through it if it's needed, because that is something they're going to remember, and that's
Absolutely.
going to encourage them to then invest more and continue to be a client, or refer other people to you.
Yeah, and with my little capitalist hat on, um, like you mentioned, those are great opportunities to build deeper bonds, to build deeper trust, where it's like, not only did you deliver on the thing that you said that you would, which should be bare minimum, but you went above and beyond. And because of that, maybe it's not you, like if you have a larger organization or you're too busy, like not everyone can afford 15 minutes like one-on-one, but maybe it's like a library, and instead of being like, here's this ginormous library of resources that I've built to help get you unstuck, it's being like, this is exactly the question that you probably have at this moment, and here's my pre-recorded answer to it. So there's a lot of ways that we can go about that, of just like those moments where like, if you ever have a moment where you're buying something from someone, or you're at a store and you're just like, or you're at the checkout line and you're just like, man, I was really hungry, I am so glad that this candy bar was right there. So it's kind of like, almost like people will
Yeah.
feel like you're reading their mind, or
Yeah.
and obviously from a capitalistic lens, this is a great opportunity to upsell, and you can kind of like really leverage this
Yes.
in a lot of other ways. But in
Mm.
the point is that investing in your customer experience brings more returns, than I
Yes.
think a lot of the times we give it credit for.
Yeah. And as you said earlier, like, acquisition of new clients is really expensive. But if you create, and you've obviously always got to continue acquiring, getting more clients, getting more customers. But if you also spend time or money on giving your existing customers a great experience and continuing that relationship, then you're going to continue to get revenue and reward from those
Mhm.
clients as well. And that's going to grow your business too. So you can't just always be focused on the bringing in of the new clients, the kind of upselling, but not just upselling from your capitalistic point of view, but that whole nourishing and providing more and more value to your existing clients is also a business scaling strategy, a business growth strategy.
Absolutely. Because one, like that those customers that have had a fantastic experience, have achieved the transformation that you promised, and feel like they know you
Mm.
because you were able to go above and beyond, they now make acquisition easier, because now they
Yes.
become your evangelists, and they are telling people that you wouldn't even have been able to touch in the digital sphere. And they're talking to
Mm.
people at brunch, or they're talking, like during a walk, like in the most,
Yes.
in times where you would have no idea how to reach them, new
Mm.
markets that you don't even know. I think what's really cool is you can have one person that's in one industry, and all of a sudden they have this landmine of a community that they're just like,
Mm.
yo, you guys, this is the person, and they were able to help me
Mm.
in my niche. And so in a lot of ways, you do have to make acquisition efforts forever, but it also helps a lot, and it
Mm.
makes it way cheaper for businesses if you can just, focus on making people happy. And then doesn't that feel amazing already as it is?
Yes. Yes. Yes, that's awesome. So what I also wanted to dive into today with you is this concept that you talk about of the 5 value types. So I'd love for you to explain this because we had a little chat before we started recording around, the difference between the value proposition of your product and the value that your customers are seeking from you, in terms of how they're going to experience your product. So please explain how this works. And just to bring a little bit of astrology into it, because we haven't gone there yet, Gisell has given me permission to talk about this. She is a Virgo sun sign. So if you can't tell already about how she approaches the world with this idea of systems, but also of service. And we were talking earlier about how Virgo is often quite a tricky sign to understand and often gets put in like the you're a perfectionist pile, or you're a neat freak, or you're overly, you're a little bit uptight, or there can be these kind of connotations to Virgo. And I just want to
So
dispel that
painful.
a little bit, because the beauty of the Virgo is, and I've talked a little bit about this before, but the symbolism for Virgo is sovereignty, right? So the Virgin was, historically has been kind of mistranslated as a woman who is impure, like a non-virgin is someone who is impure. But the whole idea of the virgin was not that she was pure, as in, in that sense, but that she was sovereign. She was owned by no one. She's not owned by a man, right? She is a sovereign woman in her own right. And I think that is the beauty of the sign of Virgo, is that it kind of gets to this position of, I know what I'm doing. I know my own power. That is like where Virgos can really shine, is they can really connect with their own inner power. And also they're really good at refining things, and literally the symbolism is, the harvest, where um we're separating the wheat from the chaff. Like that Virgo season time is the harvest season, and things are getting refined. The things that we no longer need are getting stripped away, and we're just left with, this kind of more pure product. That's where the idea of perfectionism in Virgo comes from. It's like stripping away all of the things that we don't need here in order to get this better, more refined, more effective thing. And that is what you do in your business as well, is really help people to understand this is how you're going to refine your business process. And this is how, we're going to really help you stand in your own power in your business and help serve people better. And that's also another symbol of Virgo energy, is this real need to be of service and to make service and support a big part of your business, particularly because Virgo is your midheaven. So I have another episode on the midheaven, which you should go listen to if you're listening to this. I don't want to take too much time on the whole astrology front, but I really feel it's important to understand when you're working with someone where their strengths lie. And for you, you have this particular strength, that is your guiding light, not only the sun and the moon in Virgo, but also the midheaven, which is where your public persona and your business and what you're known for comes from. So helping people to refine to get clear, to make their service better, that is absolutely spot on for you on what you're doing. So
I'm doing
just
it
needed to say
right.
that. Yeah, of course you are. I mean, we're all doing it right, but sometimes it's like just knowing that, of course this makes sense. Of course this is what I'm this is why this is so easy for me to do, because
Totally.
this is what I'm here for.
It's definitely so reaffirming, and it's always just like, uh I'm I'm a Jersey lady originally, so I come with a little bit of a harsh sense of humor. So I'm always just like, oh, this is why I'm crazy. But
Oh,
the flip side to that is also, this is why I'm awesome.
yes, you're awesome. But yeah, let's go into the value types of our customers, but also we're going to expand on this astrologically as well, which I love. You've Virgoed this this conversation, because we have a whole process for everybody listening to go through later on, to expand on this idea of, I covered a couple of episodes ago in terms of what your customers are looking for from you. And that's also why I wanted to talk about, a little bit more about your Virgo side too, because that has an influence on what your customers are looking for as well. So tell us about the value types.
Yes. So value is a word that gets thrown around a lot. And so I really want to anchor it in what it is that we're talking about when we talk about value in the context, in the frame of customer experience. So it's talking about um, how it is that we deliver the satisfaction of our service. And so
Mm,
what that means is it takes a couple of things into account, and it's not a one size fit all. And even, you can read all the amazing kind of customer experience books that are out there. And where my favorite ones are the ones that acknowledge that it's not a one size fit all. Like good customer
mm,
service isn't necessarily, or good customer experience, I'll say that, because there is a difference between customer service and customer experience. But good customer experience isn't just like smile, have a script, and kind of like have these robotic moves. It can be for some businesses. And this
mm,
is where understanding the types of value that you as a business provide your customers is really important, and understanding that there's different types of values. And so in my very process driven brain, it's very helpful for me to understand the different types, because then I can
mm,
put actions into buckets. So when we talk about customer experience strategy, strategy in general is about making decisions in your business. So when we talk about customer experience strategy, that's no different. Every
mm,
decision that you make in your business is a trade-off. So it lends into some area, and as a result, it takes away from another area. And that's inevitable.
mm,
No business is 100% across the board. And the reason I say that is, um, once you understand what your value is, you won't be so concerned with maybe doing what you saw Apple do, which is something, that's so funny. Almost every business that I work with lists Apple as like an aspirational brand. And it's just like,
yes.
what are we talking about?
Mm,
But you don't have to be an Apple, and you don't have to be a Disney, or you don't have to be like a Walmart. You can, once you figure out what is truly your value, then you can begin to make intentional decisions, because you're making the decisions whether they're intentional or not. But strategy is
mm,
all about understanding those decisions, understanding the trade-offs that come from the decisions, and either
mm,
course correcting or making future decisions accordingly. So in the context of delivering value for your customer experience, there's really 5 types of values that businesses can deliver. And I feel like I always miss one. So I wrote them down just in case. Uh, so one is functional. And by functional, we mean like, increase utility, like do the, like literally just like help me do the thing that you say that, you're going to do, and do it to the best of your ability. The
yes.
second is emotional. So having a sort of emotional connection to your brand. and often confused with, but not exactly experiential. So experiential now becomes, it's actually the hardest one to do. So emotional is really
Mm.
tending to, what do I feel? Or what does your customer feel when it is that they're interacting with you? Experiential is just immersing yourself in the experience. This really leans heavily into the brand, and kind of like, I always look at like as Jeep as an example of
Right.
experiential, and that's also social. That you know, like nothing is all 100% one part of the value wheel. But social now becomes being part of a club, so that again, that can be experiential, but doesn't have to be. If you wear a luxury bag, that's not necessarily experiential, but you're able to build a community because you have like a Telfar bag or something like that. It says something about you, it communicates to your community. And
Right.
then the final is economic. So can you do what it is that you're saying that you're doing faster, cheaper, in a way that helps me achieve that result uh, with less resources, is what it comes down to.
Mm.
And so the
Yeah.
goal is to not be mediocre at all five. So I like to look at things in percentages. If you're being
Mm.
mediocre at all five, then you're doing all at 20%, which
Right.
isn't necessarily bad. But if we're talking about making customer experience a competitive advantage, you definitely,
Mm.
just like a brand, right? If your brand is for everyone, it's actually for no one. It's the same thing. If you're trying to spread yourself thin, you're kind of doing all of
Across all the
these.
values.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
kind of doing none of them really fantastic. So um, lean into which ones feel truest to you. And then there's a ton of ways that you can actually go about delivering that. But what I would say is, um, think about three things. What is really important to you and how you work, and what's natural to the way that you work, or what's natural
Mm.
to your team and the environment that you've nurtured within them. What do your customers actually want from you is the second thing that I would consider when determining what values you want to invest more in. And then
Yes.
the third is the context of the service that you're actually providing. So, um, you know, for Walmart, I might really like, if I'm shopping at Walmart, I might want something really economical. I want it fast. I want it cheap. But if I'm going to therapy, maybe not so much. So the
Yeah.
context of the service that you're providing. So I would think about those three and which feels best suited for all of those. And of course, ask your customers. You know, ask them. Maybe don't say like, "Hey, which of these five values do you value
Yeah.
more?" Because that might not mean much. But think about like, what made you choose me? Why? What
Mm.
did you enjoy most about your experience with me? And you'll see that, you know, you'll find threads throughout your
Mm.
customer responses that will let you know if you're a little stuck, or if you're like, I'm really trying to, you know, grow and I don't necessarily know what my strength is. Ask your customers and, you know, become super customer centric, and that'll give you, like, there's a lot of ways that you can go about this, but the most important, I would say, is intentionality.
Yes. Yes. So when it comes down to, I just want to go a little bit into that experiential value, because you said that it's a little bit, the emotional and the experiential can be a little bit blurry sometimes. Is
Mhm.
that right? So
Yeah.
so explain again, what would be an experiential value compared with an emotional value?
Yeah, I would say an experiential value is immersive. So anything that you're like fully immersed in. So, and you know, the easiest way
Like
to demonstrate this
I
is with physical spaces. But in a digital world, we don't have physical
mm,
spaces. We have brands. So it's about thinking about
yes.
every single interaction with your brand. And like really leaning into the experience. What is the unboxing experience if you have a
Right.
product? What is the onboarding experience if you have a digital product? And really thinking about emotion is really like leaning into like, am I happy being in this space, or um, am I feeling confident in this space? And so like, you know, you understand your customer and what it is that they're
Mm.
looking from you. And I think this is where episode 55, if you haven't listened to it, you should. Uh, this is where I think episode 55 is really great because it talks about the different types of people that you serve, and they're all looking for
Mm.
different things. And some of your
Mm.
customers, they might be, if you're a coach, what type of coaching are you giving, right? It might be like
Mm.
maybe your customers need more of a self-esteem boost, and that becomes hyper emotional, right? They just need
Yes.
confidence, they know what they're doing. Or you're a very tactical coach, at which point you really want to think about functionality.
Yes. Right. Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you for clarifying. So I guess let's take this to that next step. So you mentioned episode 55. So in episode 55, I gave some AI prompts, some astrology powered AI prompts to help you to figure out what it is that your customers are seeking from you, your ideal customers are seeking from you. And that's based on this idea of the seventh house in your astrology chart being representative of your clients. And there are other ways that you can look at this too if you've got if you've got the time and you've got the awareness to dive a little bit deeper into your chart. But just based on that seventh house, we had some AI prompts that would help you to uncover the qualities of your ideal client and then what they're looking for from you as whatever kind of service provider or course creator or product developer, whatever you do, what they're looking for from you. And Gisell has taken this one step or a big step further and looked at what it is that what types of values these these ideal clients, what would be most important to them. So I would love just to cover, we won't probably go through every single sign, although you've done every single sign, which I love. Okay, so I'm going to actually read the prompts that originally I gave and then Gisell's additional prompt. So my ideal client has whatever zodiac sign is on your seventh house qualities. What are the top 3 things they're looking for from me as their whatever you do? And then ask the question, which of the 5 business values, functional, emotional, social, economic, and experiential, are most important to this client? So if your clients have Aries qualities, this would mean that you are a Libra rising, your 7th house is Aries. Then the qualities and expectations of your ideal client would lean them towards these types of business values, the functional value. This client is going to value practicality, efficiency. They're going to expect tangible results and solutions that help them achieve their goal. They're also going to be looking for economic value, things that are cost effective, things that are going to provide a good return on investment. They're also going to love your ability to deliver results while being mindful of their budget. So money might be particularly important to clients with Aries qualities. They also really love that experiential value that we were talking about earlier. So that Aries desire for innovation and creativity means that they're really going to love that experiential stuff. So according to ChatGPT's answer, they're going to expect you to bring fresh ideas and unique perspectives to the table, create an engaging and memorable experience throughout your collaboration. I love how then it gives this extra little line, while confidence, assertiveness, and action-oriented mindset are important qualities sought by your ideal client. These qualities are more related to personal traits rather than specific business values. However, by delivering these functional, economic, and experiential value, you can effectively meet their expectations and build a strong working relationship. So, like, isn't ChatGPT quite phenomenal in come
ChatGPT
up
knows
with?
all.
It knows
uh,
all. Yeah.
And
So,
what I love about that prompt is I think it feels super abstract, especially when we talk about value, because that word gets
mm,
thrown around so much. And there's a million ways that you can define it, but it always comes down to like, okay, but how can I implement it in my
mm,
business? And what I really love about, working off of your fantastic prompt that you created, and kind of like tweaking it a little bit just to get us real actionable insight is that
mm,
it will tell you specifically what does delivering value look like for
yes.
that audience, and what can you tangibly do. So what steps can you take in your business? So for example, um, can you remind me what was the Aries one again, the first one?
So they want functional value. So they want practicality, efficiency in the services you provide. They're also expecting tangible results and solutions. They have economic value. They want economic value. So they want things to be cost effective and have a good ROI and get results.
Yeah,
So that
so
is
yeah, what you can do with that insight is what I know off the bat is that if the majority of your clients are leaning into their Aries traits when you're working with them, maybe a community is really resource heavy, and that's not
mm,
necessarily what value looks like for them. And that's
yeah,
kind of where you can begin to make those decisions. And when I talk about strategic trade offs, is I know like communities can be all the rage and people make it seem like it's super easy to do, but in reality, it's not.
yeah,
And it
exactly.
it pulls resources from things that actually matter. So you can then
Mm,
say, "Hey, is what I'm doing, does it feel like it resonates?" And of course, there are numbers or metrics, and not every, again, we're talking about a very multifaceted thing where we have different dynamics at play. So, if engagement in your community is great and people love it and it's constantly growing, obviously
mm,
don't shut it down. That's not what we're saying. But if you're thinking about where to invest in your business next or where to grow in
yeah.
your business, this is where this insight can provide really tangible action items for you to take.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is very um it's a very good point. Yes, because people think, oh, if I'm going to do this online course, I need to have or and we keep using this as an example, but I think it really works because most of the people listening are in the online business world. If you have, you think I'm going to create this thing, this online program or this online course, and I have to have because Amy Porterfield says or
Mm-hmm.
someone else who's an expert says we need to have these things. That might not be what your ideal client is looking for from you. In fact, that's just going to be a drain, as you say, on your resources. Creating a community, like they don't need a Facebook group necessarily. They don't want that, especially an Aries type client who's just like, give me the thing. I want the actionable stuff. I want to get it done right now. I want that return on investment as quickly as possible. They don't want to kind of what we say in Australia, faff around with
Yeah, I
with the
love that.
community,
And why
you know.
why do we not say that in the States? Because
Mm,
that is a
yeah.
fantastic expression.
Yes. But because that, to be honest, if your clients have Aries qualities, they're not really interested in community. They're interested in that the Aries quality of I'm doing this for me. Like it's a very kind of there's a self-centric approach with that client. And I'm not suggesting that Aries people are selfish. That is not what I'm trying to do at all. But their approach, if again, this doesn't mean your clients are Aries. This means they have the qualities of Aries and they're coming to you for those Aries type solutions. They're looking for solutions that are focused on them. They're not looking for the solution that is focused on collaboration or being part of a community. They really have that single-minded focus of let's just get this done. I want my return on investment in the fastest possible way. I want to have a good experience while I'm doing it, that experiential quality, but I'm not interested in those emotional um, connections or in that community connection. I just want to get it done.
Yeah, and the
So,
flip side to that, sorry,
yeah, go on.
the flip side to that is for me, what this says is invest in your operations, right? How can you
Mm.
get their thing faster? What can,
Yes.
what are the bottlenecks that, even because for Aries, they really want to hop on it, and they want to hop on it now while they're thinking
Mm.
about it, while it's top of mind. So it's
Yes.
like, where are we losing time for them to achieve that transformation, for them to, like,
Mm.
and reducing all of those barriers. And so I would say, in your business, if this, this is kind of where you are, instead of investing resources in a community, it might be better to upgrade your software, or introduce new tools,
Mm.
or train your team members on, if you're the bottleneck because you're the person that's doing all XYZ, bring on team members or train your team members on how to remove some of that.
Yes.
So, so again, trying to get that solution better. But when you understand that value, it's like a love language. It's different for everybody,
Mm.
right? So
Yes.
you can be paying in community because you're like, I
Mm.
had a great community I was a part of, but that's not
Mm.
necessarily resonating with your audience when we talk about
Yeah.
how they're perceiving the value that you're giving them.
Yeah, that's it. And it's interesting because of the way astrology works is that it's the you know you're going to be a Libra rising if your seventh house is Aries, and Libra qualities are the exact opposite of Aries qualities. So you might love community, you love collaboration as a Libra rising, but your clients are coming to you for that very opposite thing. They're coming to you for that quick, self-focused result. So, and that might mean also that they're self-starters and that they don't need a lot of kind of support as they're going through your program as well. That may be another thing, that they're not actually looking for, one-to-one support. They might just be looking to be able to do it autonomously, kind of thing. That's another Aries keyword. So those are awesome things to consider. Let's give another example because I love giving examples. Okay. So, and there are a couple here that only have one value, I noticed, like Virgo
Mhm.
clients and Scorpio clients.
And what's so funny is I did it
Um,
multiple times to see if maybe ChatGPT was wrong,
yeah.
and it was not. Like, it kept like, it would rephrase it, but it would still be
Mm.
like, no, it's emotional.
Yeah, it keeps coming back. Okay. So this is interesting. So let's talk about, we've been talking about Virgos. So let's go there. If your ideal clients are Virgos, this would mean that you're a Pisces rising. Okay, because that's the opposite sign. You're Pisces rising, your seventh house is going to be Virgo. So based on the characteristics of a Virgo client and their expectations, the most important business value for them would be functional value. So Virgos are known for their attention to detail and practical nature. They appreciate efficiency and effectiveness in any service or product they receive. Therefore, they would prioritize functional value, which focuses on meeting their specific needs and providing practical solutions. While those emotional, social, economic, and experiential values may also be important to some extent, the Virgo client's emphasis on attention to detail and practicality suggests that functional value would be their primary concern. So this is interesting because, yes, it doesn't have the same, you're not getting the three values. You're really focused in on functional value. So what might that look like what might we want to consider if functional value is our ideal client's main value?
I would say do less and do it better. So I would say for that, and I speak for Virgos,
For Virgos.
I will represent the Virgo congregation. Um,
Mm.
we don't want to be stuck. We want
Mm.
all the details, all the I's dotted, all the T's crossed. So do less and really
Mm.
focus on doing that, especially as we're talking about function, right? So it's like
Mm.
making sure that everything that goes out is super tight. Um, these are people that will probably, be the ones to catch the mistake. Now, that doesn't mean that, like,
Yes.
if there's one mistake, bring the whole thing down, but
Mm.
reiterate and improve on the one product, especially if it's a product that's working. Reiterate, make it better,
Mm.
make it smoother to go through. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, I would say
Yeah.
definitely focus on that. So again, talking about systems and operations and internal things, but really making sure, you don't have tech troubles.
Yes.
Which is tough, I know, but those kinds of things, it's like
That would be really frustrating to a Virgo type client, to a client with Virgo qualities.
yes,
Not being able to actually do the thing that they've paid for is going to be super frustrating to them. They
yes,
don't necessarily expect it to have all of the bells and whistles, maybe, but they are
hmm
expecting whatever you create or whatever you've sold them to be really easy to use, to be um, potentially able to be practically implemented. Like they want to actually be able to do the thing. They don't want to be,
yeah,
like you say, they don't want to be stuck. They want to have ways to um, they want to know that there's always a way to work around it, that you're maybe available to work through a problem with them because they have bought the thing so that they can do the thing. They're not just in it for the experience, they're actually in it for that functional quality that it's going to give them.
And what's so interesting is that for this type of person, it might just be like going above and beyond is about having a buttery smooth process, like end to
Mm.
end. I love ordering at kiosks. I love the fact that whenever this fast food chains have all transitioned
Mm-hmm.
to have kiosks, so I know exactly what it is that I'm ordering, and
Mm.
like it's all systematized, and it makes it really easy for um, you know I have set
Mm.
amount of time allocated for something, and I'm able to do it within that time, or it's the process is as it's been laid out.
Yeah.
That's also kind of like another part of it is making sure that you're communicating the process and communicating to that type of user,
Yes.
so that they expectations can be set accordingly. So setting those expectations accordingly and delivering
Mm.
on it, that is what going above and beyond is for this type of audience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And that is communication is one of those really core Virgo values as well. Like clear communication
Hmm.
is something that's really important, being a sign that is ruled by the planet Mercury, the planet of communication. And also, as you say, having the tech working, another Mercury thing. So, yeah, keeping that in mind is really important if you have clients with Virgo qualities. Let's do one more because I feel like we need to cover off this, if that's okay with you.
Yeah. Yeah,
I,
let's do it. This
I,
is fun.
I love this. I feel like we need to cover off on this emotional value because we've talked about functional value of Virgos, we've talked about economic value of Aries. Let's talk about emotional value. So let me find. I'm gonna I'm gonna pick on Scorpio. I know I've talked about Scorpios before because my ideal clients have Scorpio qualities, but that is there is according to this process that we have um, been through, there is only that emotional value for Scorpio clients with Scorpio qualities. So, based on the qualities and expectations of your ideal client, the most important business value for them would be emotional value. Emotional value focuses on building trust, establishing a strong connection, and providing a sense of security and confidentiality. As your client seeks trust and confidentiality as one of their top priorities, emotional value aligns perfectly with their needs. While other values such as functional, social, economic, and experiential are also important, emotional value takes precedence in this case. So, and just to be clear, like I wanted to point out those ones. So Virgo is the only sign that has the one for functional. Scorpio and Pisces are the other signs that only have emotional. Everybody else seems to have multiple values, but these ones are quite specific. So what would you suggest if your ideal client's most important business value is emotional? How would that experience look?
Yeah, so for me, the way that that reads to me is folks want to feel good while they're interacting and consuming. And I know that that feels like it's really heading into experiential, but it's not.
Mm,
For these emotional folks, you don't have to necessarily focus on the prettiest brand or whatever. I think this is
mm,
where a lot of like the one-on-one interactions and the specialization and the personalization, um, this goes a really long way with communities that really value emotional and really want to have that feeling and feel confident or feel happy or feel a sense of joy. I would really lean into really appealing to the emotion. So that might look like these are people who really enjoy you remembering their birthday. It might really enjoy a birthday card, like a handwritten birthday card, if you have that type of business, or just something that acknowledges them, something that makes them feel good. So I would say like personalization is huge for people who really value this.
Yeah. So personalization is one way to like honor that emotional value. So not only if you have Scorpio clients with Scorpio qualities, but also if you have clients with Pisces qualities, that emotional stuff is also really key. And I just wanted to bring up Sagittarius clients, or clients with Sagittarius qualities, also really value the emotional stuff. And even Leo clients really value the emotional, and Cancer clients, they are going to appreciate someone who's going to empathize with them and provide that understanding and support. Leo clients are going to really value someone who's going to give them emotional fulfillment and validation, because that's also what they're coming to you for. So there may be a slightly different slant on that emotional support. Absolutely. Depending on what your ideal clients, what qualities they have. So it's key to kind of go through that, I guess, in a little more detail. So we will provide this awesome prompt that Gisell has created, because it is just so powerful. And I mean, now that we have access to these amazing tools with AI, you can't help but use them, can you? It's like, it's just so exciting to be able to dive into this stuff that would have taken us a lot longer to figure out before. And now we can kind of go, oh, that makes sense, and just immediately take action on that. So that is a benefit of AI. There is a whole lot of scary stuff that comes with it.
There is a lot of scary stuff, but I will say using technology for things like this is where you can use technology for good. And in moments like this, when we talk about these types of things and we think about leveraging technology to make things more human. So, for example, I just want to take it back for a second, just because I feel like this is a really great action items, like really clear, tangible action items, which I'm sorry, emotional folks, I feel I didn't give you as much. I'm a Virgo, so it's okay. It's not it's not immediately where I go. But what I will say is, and I, even in my business, I try and do this because I do actually value experience and service. I would say, if you're really going to invest heavily in the emotional aspects and that leaning into empathy and leaning into personalization and these things that really do require a level of uniqueness, which means it's kind of hard to automate, what I would focus on is automating all of the things that don't directly impact that feeling, don't directly impact emotion, to leave you more capacity, more space, and more resources to be able to dedicate time. So that's really for these people. And I love moments of delight. It's something that I talk about a lot. But for these people, those moments of delight, those moments of actually going above and beyond will be really helpful to them. So also using technology for good, automate the stuff that is low value so that you can really invest in those touch points.
Yeah, because it's important to know, even if your clients are seeking that, you've got that key value, say emotional, you still have to have the other things covered. Absolutely. To some degree as well, because otherwise your business is going to be a little bit challenging to run for starters, and it's going to be very difficult for you to, keep your clients if you're not also giving them, some functionality, some return on investment, etc. Like, it's important to just, make that clear. You can't just do the one thing, but you can, like you say, work, if the main value is emotional of your ideal clients, then, working out how to efficiently do the other ones, but not having them be the focus is good. So you can still, get people into your product, give them some of those other values, because you've got to, in order for it to work. But really, allow yourself that space that you can then, delight people, that you can give that personalization, that you can have the time to, if it is do longer sessions, or, really, create personalized reports, or whatever it is, like give yourself that, that space.
I love those examples. Those are so good.
Awesome. Well, this has been such a delightful chat. I have loved this, and I feel like there's a lot that people can take away and go and do now. Go and have a play with ChatGPT and work out this stuff, and and take your customer experiences to the next level. That is awesome. So, is there anything else that you want to leave the audience with before we wrap up? What can we direct people to find out more about you? All of that good stuff.
Yeah. I would love to connect with you. Your friends are my friends, so now we're all friends. So
Yes.
please do connect. You can find me on Instagram on at Get Strategy, or you can find me on LinkedIn as Gisell Paula. And I'm happy to help you kind of work through your experience. I have a VIP day, but if you're more of a DIYer, I also have that mini course that I spoke about, and you can go to the website and get a free lesson to just check it out and just see, you can gain some value even just from that free lesson.
Yeah, awesome. And we will put all the show notes in for the listeners to go and find you and check all of that amazing stuff out. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'm really excited to create better customer experiences.
Thank you so much for having me, Sophia. It's been great.
Thank you.